Morning, afternoon, or evening, everyone. My name is Jeremy Walsh, and I'm the Director of Support, Training, and Documentation for BNI Connect. I'd like to welcome everybody to the webinar today. Today's webinar is the fourth part in a five-part series specifically designed for new members in BNI or for people that are just logging into BNI Connect for the very first time. And today what we're going to talk about is the member tools and reports. So really what we're going to do is we're going to take a little bit of a deeper dive into BNI Connect. We're going to go to some of the places, and I call them the scary places beyond the home screen here in BNI Connect in order to really find out what are some of the other things that we can do besides just putting in our weekly slips, and what kind of data can we pull back out of BNI Connect. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. Of course, as I said, this is part of a five-part series. If you happen to miss the first couple of them that we did last week, that was filling out your profile. That's step one. Step two is how to use the online slips in BNI Connect. And then step three was connecting with other members worldwide. As I said, today is step four, the tools and reports. And then tomorrow, we're going to do our last part in the series and our last webinar of 2016, and we're going to be talking about inviting and registering visitors. But don't worry, if you missed any of them, we're going to do the whole thing again in January, all 9 webinars, and we'll continue that throughout 2017 as well. So we invite you to join us for any of those. Now, a couple of housekeeping things before we get started today. First of all, I hope everybody had a wonderful holiday if you're coming to us here in the United States. If you are with us today, December 28th, 2016, you are here on a live webinar, and you have the added value of being able to ask questions. So if we're going through this webinar today and anything pops into your head or you're not sure about something, by all means, please do ask as many questions as you'd like to. The best way to do that is to type your question into the questions panel here in this GoToWebinar software. I'll see the question pop up on my screen, and I can answer that as we're going through the material today. If you aren't with us today on December 28th, then you are listening to a recording. We do record all of our webinars so that they can be shared and people can go back and review them, or you can put them in front of new members as they come in, and you can listen to them at your leisure. So if that is the case and you have a question, you can always email us at support@bniconnect.com, and we'll be happy to answer your questions. And you can find these recordings, by the way, on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/BNI Connect Global, as well as on our support site, which you can access by clicking the question mark here in the upper right-hand corner of BNI Connect. So with all that said, let's go ahead and get started again with today's presentation. And again, we're going to be talking about the member tools and reports. Now, of course, a lot of the things that you do on a daily basis, we did cover in our second webinar, which is the online slips. And that's really all of this stuff here on the home page. So how do you submit your slips, and how do you review that information once you start putting it in? And there's a ton of data that you can get from there, as well as all your 12 months and lifetime. Now, the first thing I want to make sure that you've seen, even though it's right here on the home page, there is a valuable report where you can look at week by week what your activity is here in BNI. And you can do that by clicking on the My Personal Participation Report right here on the home screen. If we click that, that will take the last 1 year of your membership and break it down week by week by week. So this, of course, is it's called the Personal Palms Report. For anybody that's brand new, Palms it's our bread and butter statistical report here in BNI. And PALMS is actually an acronym for the different types of attendance. Originally it was for keeping track of who was showing up to the meetings, and then it was expanded over the years to include other things as well. So PALMS actually stands for present, absent, late, medical, and substitute. So those are the different attendance possibilities. And we're tracking that in the first column here. So you can see the meeting date and then the column for the attendance. Then the next four columns have to do with referrals. That's what the R is referrals. Now RG is referrals given. So that's how many referrals you have generated for other members of your chapter. RR on the other side is the other side of that equation. How many referrals have you received? And you'll notice that each one of those is broken into two categories as well. So you have I and O. So RGI is a referral given inside the chapter, or an inside or a Tier 1 referral, if you think to your member success program. So a Tier 1 referral is when two members of the chapter do business with each other. In other words, the relationship stayed inside the room, whereas an outside referral means that I've introduced somebody else into this relationship. So that's the difference between a given inside and outside. Same thing with received inside and outside. V is for visitors that you've brought in to visit a chapter meeting. One-to-ones are meetings that you've had with other chapter members. TYFCB is thank you for closed business. Or when you've generated a referral for somebody else that turned into revenue, they then acknowledge that by turning in thank you for closed business for you. So this is not a measure of how much money you've made in BNI, but how much money you have generated for other people's businesses through referrals. CEUs, of course, are our chapter education units. And you can see all these with a total at the bottom. You can also see anybody that you've sponsored recently and any training events that you've attended. So this is your personal POMS report. It's a great report to get to know, and also this is a great report for troubleshooting as well. So if you find that your statistics are incorrect, great place to look to in order to find that. All right, but now that we've seen that, we do need to go to some of the other things beyond the home screen. So to do that, we're going to have to use our various menu items. So over here, don't forget, below the My BNI Business, there's also the My Network. Now, we covered this the other day as far as the social media components. So this is where all those social media things are hiding within BNI Connect. So the groups and the testimonials, being able to log on to events in your region, and also your document sharing library. That's where we're going to find all of this stuff under My Network. But the place where we're going to, again, dive a little bit deeper into BNI Connect is we have to get into these menu items up here along the top. So I'm going to concentrate on the things that all members should have access to in BNI Connect. Now, these same menus are where the leadership team go to do things like record weekly POMS reports, but it's also where, even as a member, there's a couple of things here that are very, very helpful to you. So let's go and take a look. There's network operations and reports. Those are the three primary categories here along the top. Now, networking is, again, from the other day, this is all of our social media components. So it's the groups, the connections, the testimonials. Now, operations and reports are really where just about everything else is kind of hidden, so to speak. Operations is really the day-to-day activities. It's data input. It's when you go to do stuff in BNI Connect. We always go to operations, whereas reports are read-only. We can only ever get information back out of reports. So if we're looking to do input, or we're looking for certain other functionality, we're going to go to operations. Whereas if we're looking for stats, we're going to go to reports. So let's take a little tour of the operations menu and see what's under here. So if we go to operations chapter, this is, again, where the day-to-day management of our chapter is going to be located. Now, a lot of these things, again, are going to be leadership team oriented. So if you're not seeing all of the same things that I'm seeing on my screen, that's okay. Perhaps someday when you become the chapter president or the vice president or a visitor host, more of these options will become available as are appropriate with your role. But there's certain things that everybody should see on here, and I'd like to bring your attention to a couple of things. Now, the first of which is I'm going to jump all the way down here to one called Create Email. And there's two important functions in here that are really helpful as a member. The first of which is if you ever need to get a message out to your chapter. For example, you're helping to organize a chapter after-hours event. Maybe it's a holiday party or something like that, and you need to get a message out to your entire chapter about that event. Well, you can do that by going to Create Email and Email My Chapter. And if you click on Email My Chapter, this will give you the current email address list for all of the people in your chapter. All you need to do is highlight them, copy that, and paste that into your own email program. I do always recommend that you use the BCC line for that, as that will minimize the the passing around of email addresses and everybody just hitting reply all and getting multiple copies of responses, which is always annoying to a lot of people. So again, you can always go to, oops, I clicked the wrong button. I'm just going to my own chapter so that we have a little bit better data here. So again, you go to Create Email, Email My Chapter, and that will give you the current address list. Now, this is a whole lot easier than just going in and hitting reply all to whatever the last message is. Now, keep in mind, there's also this, if you notice, there's this envelope thing up here in the upper right-hand corner. This here is an internal-only messaging system. So that means that if you do decide to do a message in this particular interface, that will stay inside BNI Connect. Unless people have email forwarding turned on in their profile, which not many people do, what tends to happen is somebody will send a message through this interface thinking that everybody's going to get it, and again, unless they log into BNI Connect and read that message, they won't. Whereas if we go to Create Email, Email My Chapter, this is a list of their actual email addresses, so everybody will get that particular email. Now, the second thing under here is the visitor invitation, and this is another wildly underutilized tool, but it is an awesome way to get an invitation out to a visitor for somebody that you'd like to invite to come and visit your chapter. And the nice part about it is it's nice and it's branded and takes all the guesswork out of it. Now, I'm going to go into it a little bit more in detail tomorrow, but I do want to give you guys a preview of it today. And right here we have this email chapter visitor invitation, and it's really easy to use. All you need to do is put in the person's name and email address that you're sending the invitation to. So let's say that I'm going to invite my good friend Bob Marley from Marley and Company, and his email address, bobmarley@bobmarley.com.net. Right, so I want to send this out to Bob Marley. I'm going to invite him to the chapter. Now, the nice thing about this is what it's going to do is it's going to take the guesswork out of really what do I say to a visitor when I'm inviting him. Oh, what is the address of my chapter meeting, and so on and so forth. So when I put this information in, I can put a little bit of a personal message in there. Now, one thing about this particular email that's really, really important is that this should never be a spam message. This really is meant to be a follow-up to a verbal invitation. So let's say that you meet somebody at a networking event and you want to invite him to a BNI meeting. This is how you do that. This is how you follow up with that verbal invitation. So you meet them, you say, hey, would you like to come to a BNI meeting? Sure, I'd love to. How about I send you a visitor invitation? And then this is when you would use this. So the personal message is really, it's your opportunity to give a reminder that you had already asked them. So maybe something like, it was great meeting you at the networking event. Please RSVP below. Now, something to keep in mind is that you will get a copy of this message so that you know it goes out and you know even what it looks like. So I'm going to go ahead and click Send. And within a couple of seconds, I should get a copy of this message because I was carbon copied on it. And Bob Marley will get a copy of that as well. So I'm just going to give that a second to come through here. And as soon as it comes through, I'll show you exactly what it looks like. And here it is. It came through already. And you can see this went to Bob Marley at bobmarley.com.net. And it also CC'd my email address that is in BNI Connect. It has your message here at the top, so it was great meeting you at the networking event. Please RSVP below. has a nice graphic in here, briefly explains what BNI is all about, and then it has a place for them to RSVP. It has the chapter name and the details, and there's some great information that takes them to a website that can explain what BNI is all about if they don't know anything about it. So again, I'm going to go into more detail about this in tomorrow's webinar, but this is a great way to really invite people to your chapter. It makes it nice and easy and foolproof. All right, there's some other great tools under here as well. If you'd like to, if your chapter leadership team has entered their goals for the chapter, you can go in and you can review the chapter goals and follow along as the year progresses. And most of the rest of this, however, is for the leadership teams. So what I'd like to do is to switch over to the reports, because the reports are really where, you know, the other benefit of being part of this system is that we can really go in and start to get some statistics and other useful tools in order to make our memberships more profitable. All right, so as you can see, there are a lot of reports here in the system. There's about 20 or so different chapter level reports here. Now, I'm not going to go through all of them today. We only have about 10 minutes or so left, so I do want to be respectful of everybody's time. Now, that said, one of the other tools in the system is you'll notice that we do have a very comprehensive help site as well. And that is that almost all of these reports and everything else, I do have documentation on and explanations if you're not sure what they are. So, for example, one of the things I'm not really going to cover today is, for example, the cumulative VP report. If you're not sure what this report is all about, notice how there's a little question mark in front of everything. If you click this question mark, it will take you to the support site and actually right to the article that explains what this chapter, what this particular report is all about. So you can go in, click that question mark, it'll tell you, how you got there. It'll give you the details of that particular report and give you an explanation of what everything is all about with that report. So it's a great way, especially if you happen to want to tell somebody else about the report as well. You can always forward them a copy of that help article. And of course, if you click the big question mark in the upper right-hand corner, that will take you to the full support site. And here you can catch our recordings. You can also catch help and guides on a whole bunch of different things. So for example, if somebody in your chapter is having trouble resetting their password, you can also click through the help document, for example, with a video in it of how to go through and reset your password. So all that information is there on the help site. But I want to show you a couple of the reports that I find really helpful here. I'm going to go through about a half a dozen of them right now. Now the first report, I'm going to skip down a couple of reports, and the first one I want to point out is the chapter roster report. The chapter roster report, it's a pretty straightforward, simple report. It really is just going to list all of the chapter members and the officers. But where I find this helpful especially is that when you're looking through and looking at all of the officers and you need to get in touch with somebody, for example, like let's say that you're having an issue with another member of the chapter. The people you want to talk to about that is really your membership committee, but you may not know how to get in touch with the membership committee. So this is a great way to, A, find out who's on the membership committee, and you can see that I'm actually on the membership committee of my chapter, and their phone number so that you can get in touch with them. Or if it's an even bigger issue and you need to get in touch with your executive director or your director consultant, you can find their information here as well. And of course, if we scroll down a bit, this will give you your chapter roster, so your all the different members of your chapter, what classification they hold, what company name, and also a quick review of their last 90 days of their membership. So I especially like to look at this, and I like to reach out to people that might have lower one-to-one numbers, and maybe I can help them out and do a one-to-one with them and get them more engaged in the chapter. So this is a great little report that, again, does great for our contact information as well. All right, now along the same vein, I'm going to skip down 2 reports here to the meeting notes report. Now, one of the things that I've been a member for 15 years. I've been a member since 2002. And one of the things that we really believe in is giver's gain. And the giver's part of that, the giving referrals, sometimes it's easy and sometimes it can be a struggle. Well, one of the ways that we can make it a little bit easier is by making sure we know what people are asking for. So the meeting notes report, this is very similar to the roster, but what this is designed to do is to kind of make it a little bit easier for you to give referrals. And the way it does that is if you print this out before your chapter meeting and bring this with you to the chapter meeting, this is, again, quite simply a means for you to take notes. So you'll note it has the member's name, it has their company, and a blank place for you to keep notes at the meeting. So as people are going around and giving their weekly presentations, you can go in and say, hey, this person asked for this specific referral. Now, of course, with these reports, you can always print them out on your printer. Now, if you don't like the layout, or you think you need more space to keep notes, or let's say that you even want to keep notes electronically, the other option is that you can always export these reports to Excel. And the way we do that is you'll notice there's two buttons here next to the print button. One says export without headers, and one says export. The difference is export is always going to give you everything that's on the page here, whereas export without headers is only going to give you the data. So let me show you the difference. I'm going to click on export and open this up. And what you'll notice is that at the top of the page here, let me pull this over to the right screen, at the top of the page it has all those parameters up here at the top. Now that's all great. This is great if I just wanted to save this report. I can see when I ran it and what report it was and all of that other stuff. But where this becomes really hard now is if I wanted to sort this by first name instead of last name, all of these cells are all merged and it's all kind of messy and everything. So that's why we have the export without headers. So when I open this up with the export without headers, now it makes it really easy because all of these columns are now single columns without any merged cells. So I can always, my favorite button in Excel, by the way, format as table, so I can give this, let's say, a color scheme. And now, of course, I can sort this by first name instead of by last name. Makes it a lot easier to do that. Let's say that I wanted a bigger space for keeping notes. Makes it a lot easier for me to now reformat this so I have a bigger spot for taking notes, or I could even use this to take notes electronically and then save this particular spreadsheet for the week. Now, I do recommend either saving the physical hard copies or saving these electronically. One of the things about referrals in general is that oftentimes when somebody asks for a specific referral at a meeting, the chances of you knowing that person or having that referral right at the ready, a lot of times it may take weeks or even months before you have the opportunity to fulfill that referral request. Now you can always go back and review what people have been asking for the last few weeks or even the last few months, all just by taking notes at the meeting. The next report down is the Summary POMS report. And the Summary POMS report, this is really, again, the bread and butter of our statistics for our chapter. Now, if I go in here and I just click Go, this is going to give us our last 6 completed months of data. So this is giving us June through the end of November. Again, the last completed 6 months. And it'll tell me basically, again, present, absent, late, medical substitute, referrals given, referrals received, visitors, one-to-ones, thank you for closed business, and CEUs. So I can review not just the information for myself, but actually for the whole chapter. Now, one thing to keep in mind is that the report totals include contributions from dropped members as well. So we do have down here the totals for the whole chapter. If you actually tried to add these columns up, they won't add up because the dropped members are hidden. If you'd like to see the names of all the people, including dropped members, be sure to show dropped member names by choosing that option. Now, you can also, let's say I want to see our statistics for the entire year. I can just change the date on this and look at our statistics from January 1st all the way through December 31st, including dropped members. I can even go back to 2010 if I want to. So you can look up really the stats for your chapter for any period of time, and even for people that may not even be members right now. All right, now there are a ton of other reports here, and I highly recommend just clicking through them. One last report real quick is the member details report. This one's really good if you think about what they taught in the member success program. One of the things is that before you do a one-to-one with somebody, you should be doing what's called the gains exchange. And gains, of course, stands for goals, accomplishments, interests, networks, and skills. And that is for when, before we meet with somebody, what we want to do is give that person our gains profile so they can review it ahead of time. Now, you can do that electronically just by going and looking at their profile. But if it's something that you wanted to either print out your own and send it to them, as long as you have it filled out in BNI Connect, just go to Member Details, click on View Member Gains. You can view the gains or the bio or anything else for anybody in your chapter or even for yourself. And this puts it in a nice printer-friendlier format, or even something that you can copy and paste and put it into an email before you go to meet with them. All right, we're just about at the bottom of the hour, so I just want to give you one more quick hint here, one little tip and trick. If I go back to my home screen, I go back to my BNI business. So right here we have this slider bar on the left-hand side. So we have My BNI Business, My Network, and below that you should have one that says Chapter Shortcuts. Now what this is I just showed you all the stuff by going to Operations Chapter and Reports Chapter. What this is everything that you have access to in your own customizable shortcut list. So by default it's going to show you things that are pertinent to your particular role, but you can reorder this whole menu and make it your own. So if I click on Configure, on the left-hand side, this is all of the things that are in my current shortcut menu. On the right-hand side are things that I don't currently have in my shortcut menu. Of course, I can click the X button on these and take things out of my shortcut menu. And I can click put a check mark in each of these boxes if I want these things to be in my shortcut menu. So as you find things that you're using the most often, like let's say the email my chapter and email visitor invitation and the personal POMS report, and if I was the vice president, maybe entering POMS reports and the speaker report. If these are things that you want to have quicker access to, put them in your shortcut list, and you can even reorder them by dragging them and dropping them to put them in a new order. Once I submit this and close out of it, you'll see that my chapter shortcuts have now been rearranged and put in my own preference, style, and order. So now if, let's say I log into BNI Connect, I go to My BNI Business and I'm logging in for the first time. Let's say I want to email my chapter instead of going to Operations, Chapter, Create Email, Email Chapter. I just go to Chapter Shortcuts, email my chapter, and boom, I have it here. Now it's saved about 5 or 6 clicks, but it also saves some time because you'll notice that we didn't have to wait for the screen to refresh in between going to Operations Chapter. So it can be a real time saver putting these chapter shortcuts the way that you want them to be. All right, so on that note, we are clicking right over onto the bottom of the hour. So as I said, I do want to be respectful for everybody's time, so if you do need to leave right away, thank you so much for being here with me today and learning a little bit more about BNI Connect. What I'd like to do is to open this up for questions. Even though we try to keep the content to 30 minutes, I am always happy to stay here until every single question has been answered. This is what I do all day, every day. I talk about, troubleshoot, test, and teach people about BNI Connect. So feel free to ask anything you'd like about BNI Connect. The only silly question is the unasked question. While you are thinking up any last questions, just a reminder, if you click on the question mark in the upper right-hand corner of BNI Connect, again, that will take you over to our support site. Live and recorded webinars, a good referral for me. Go into this upcoming webinars. we have our January series. I have just posted this as of yesterday. So as I mentioned, we're going to be going through this entire series again. So all 5 steps and the chapter leadership webinars as well. So a good referral for me is to please share these registration links with other people in your chapter, other people in your area. And of course, you can always learn at your own pace by going to the recorded webinars. You can find them all here. All the December series have been uploaded here so far. I'll be uploading this one and tomorrow's webinar just as soon as I can. All right, I'm not seeing any questions. Do we have any questions whatsoever? All right. If we don't have any additional questions, I'm going to say thank you again, and I look forward to, oh, hold on a second. We do have a question from Anthony. Anthony says, how can you get your chapter's colors list? Anthony, I'm not 100% sure. Are you referring to the traffic lights? So what your traffic lights colors are? Ah, so your traffic lights. So your chapter traffic lights, that's going to be the traffic lights report. So if I go to reports, it's going to be down. You're going to have to scroll down for this one, but you have your chapter traffic lights here. And here you can see your chapter traffic lights. So this is my region. We can see our chapter traffic lights. And that's how to find them. Now, some regions are also doing member traffic lights, or what some call the Power of One report. Those ones are not calculated in BNI Connect directly. So those are done on a spreadsheet. Most regions, or many regions, either email those out separately, or for example, my region, I go to my network and we can find our traffic lights. They share them with the members in our region in our documents here. So I can go into more documents and find any of the, so I can also do a search here for traffic. So I can see that they've uploaded the October and the November traffic lights for our particular region. All right, so does that help, Anthony? All right, what other questions? Questions, comments, criticisms, compliments. We love them all. All right, well, Anthony also says, does this count for CEUs? Yes, absolutely, please do. Please go in and click on Submit CEU Slips. You'll notice that the second one down, at least in the United States version of English, it says BNI Webinar at the end of that. But even if it doesn't, just make sure you give yourself 1 credit for today's webinar. So this does count as a 1 credit course. All right, so thank you guys again for being here, and I look forward to seeing you on a future webinar. In the meantime, have an absolutely wonderful rest of the week. If I don't see you on tomorrow's webinar, have a great new year and happy connecting.